for joining us here on the Full Monty, the Naked Truth. It's a video podcast we're producing right here in St. Thomas, Ontario. So thanks everyone for joining us. Today, this is our pilot episode. We are doing a test run right now, which I'm glad we did because my guest was in here earlier. We did it, and we had a couple little glitches.
Yeah.
Let's just call it glitches.
Call them glitches.
So we had to go work through some stuff and do some recharging, and hopefully now this is going to be our full pilot one. So the guy that I got in here right now, I've known for quite a few years. We worked together at one time. This is where I actually met him, at a place called Cox Cabs. I used to drive taxi here in St. Thomas, and this fellow used to work in the garage. Pretty good mechanic, kept us on the road. Wasn't too long after we found out ways that we could actually bribe this guy. And so if we wanted to, we were coming in for some minor maintenance and stuff on the cabs, but maybe there was something a little extra that I wanted to do to mine or add or something. It was pretty easy. The power of Tim Hortons. We would just grab some extra drinks, come out there and bribe them.
Tim Hortons works for a lot of people.
Isn't it a powerful thing? Hey, Timmy's is a really powerful thing. So, yeah, it was pretty amazing. So, Tom Phillips is our guest. He is now retired. Probably other things we could call you, but we won't. We'll keep it nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, be nice today.
So Tom and I worked together out there. Like I said, he was in the yard. Kept our vehicles, the wonderful meters, installing meters and all that kind of stuff. I don't ever know how you even did all the wiring and all that stuff. That's just not for me.
There's a trick to it.
Yeah, there's got to be a trick to it. So for me, I guess the trick, I would just light it on fire and burn the car. Done, right? It's all done. So Tom, thanks for coming on, being my guinea pig, I guess, for
Happy to help out.
the first episode of the Full Monty. All right. So where we came up with the name, the Full Monty, the Naked Truth. So we're going to be bringing all kinds of different guests in throughout the city, from city council members, first responders, fire department, police, EMS. I would like to get doctors coming in. We're going to try to get some veterinarians to come in. So what we'll be doing is advertising on social media who the guest is going to be coming into future shows. You can write in your questions. So if we have, say, a veterinarian coming in, you want to know maybe your dog, cat, your goldfish, whatever. There's some issues. Write in. We'll ask that guest. We'll ask the guest your question and see if we can get the answers for it.
Sometimes be pretty helpful to some people.
You know what? Remember years ago there used to be Ask the Mechanics or whatever on, or Ask the Professional something. It used to be on, I think, Radio 98 in London. They used to have auto mechanics. So they come in, people could call in and ask, my car's doing this, it's making this noise, whatever, which you've probably heard all those anyway.
Yeah.
All kinds of weird noises and stuff. But Tom, what got you, I guess before we start, for those that don't know you, go back to where you're born. Where'd you grow up?
I was born here. For the first few years, I lived just a little bit south of Elmer. Mm-hmm. And then we moved into St. Thomas. And I spent all my elementary school days in St. Thomas. And we moved out to Port Bruce area, and I went to high school in Elmer. And then I ended up moving back into St. Thomas. And for a few years, as you know, I was down in the Niagara area.
That's right.
And it came back here and glad to be back.
That's actually where we kind of got out of touch with each other. You and Charlene moved down Niagara in that area. Wasn't until you came back, I think, around the Tillsonburg area that we kind of hooked back up again and started communicating back and forth. Well, that's when I actually learned when you were gone to Niagara, because of all the years I knew you. I didn't know that you played guitar. I didn't know you sang. I didn't know any of that part of you. What at that time? Well, we'll get into that for a sec. But working on cars and all that kind of stuff. So growing up in Elmer and then coming back here. So how did you get into that? Like what became your love to work with vehicles?
Fixing cars with my dad, and as I got a little older, fixing cars and motorcycles.
Oh, okay. Yeah, right. Because you ride too.
Yeah.
So right on. So starting at Cox Cabs, you got your whole fill and doing all that kind of stuff out there. But unfortunately, as things happen to us, your health took an awful turn at one point out there. And what happened?
I had a heart attack caused by high cholesterol. The one night, the job I was doing all day, I thought I pulled something in the muscles in my smallest two fingers. It turns out the next day I was working and my chest started hurting, so I went to the hospital, and it was actually a minor heart attack, which ended up with a stent to clear that up. And then a few years later, I was actually out making deliveries for the courier part of Cox Cabs. Yeah. And I had a heart attack while I was stopped at a corner.
Wow.
I wheeled around the corner and got parked and went to the hospital and got that one taken care of.
Oh my goodness. That's scary stuff.
It is.
That one led to a double bypass,
yes,
didn't it?
Yes, it did.
Yeah, that's horrible. And now, okay, so time's gone on from there and you're still kind of tinkering around doing whatever, but now you just went in and had another surgery.
Yeah, I had my gallbladder removed.
Your gallbladder decided to...
It was actually, I guess if you think about it, it's actually kind of funny. Most people, their gallbladder bothers them for years.
Yeah.
That was the very first attack I had from it.
Yeah, it never bothered you before this,
it never bothered me at all. And
now it was a
when I went back to talk to the doctor for the follow-up, he said it was really bad.
Oh my goodness. So Cox Cabs was in business for a lot of years. I did a little Google on them because I just wanted to find out some more history on it, even though I worked there for quite a long time, quite a few years, and then learned a lot as I went on, especially from Keith Fulton, old Keith, man. Keith
was
him and Roz used to run the old one downtown, Talbot Moore.
Yeah.
When they were down there. But if you type in Cox Cabs, St. Thomas, Ontario, it comes up as an independent player in the movement of people and parcels around St. Thomas. And what was the year? You did say it earlier, which you got it right.
1944.
That's right. So 1944, Cox Cabs started in St. Thomas. It was branded as Cox Cabs. But now the sad part was they picked up their last fare, which is already on Google, it says here, was early January. It was January 28th of 2017. So 1944 to 2017, that was Cox Cabs. That's when it got rebranded into Your Taxi. But now, sorry, I had to write this down. I printed it out, so I got to read it because it was quite lengthy. But some of the history, and as we were talking through some of it, you didn't even know some of this.
Yeah.
So we'll briefly go through this, but for those that want a little history on Cox Cabs, we had a murder way back in the day, one of the drivers. So the whole write-up that came out from police reports and everything at the time, so it came out, it says, sometime between 10:15 and 10:30 p.m. on the night of Friday, February 21st of 1968, a man phoned Cox Cabs in St. Thomas and asked for a taxi to take him to Port Stanley. Oh, I hear a whole bunch of dogs coming down the hallway now. Yeah, I can hear them in here. So the cab was to go to Port Stanley. The call came from a business on Talbot Street, a few blocks from Cox Cabs at Talbot and Moore. Gerald DeViller was dispatched to pick up the call. There turned out to be two fares, two young men, and they were 21 and 22 years old. So at about 1:10 p.m., a couple named Van Velzer was driving east on Lake Road near Port Stanley when Mrs. Van Velzer spotted what she thought was a body of a man laying beside the road. This proved to be Gerald. Without getting out of their car, the couple backed up the driveway to a nearby farmhouse who was owned by Floyd Auckland and phoned the OPP. They drove back to the body and waited for the police to arrive. Mr. DeViller was lying face down on the south side of the road, partly on the gravel shoulder, partly on the grass, with his head to the west. There was a lot of blood around him. He had been stabbed, bludgeoned, and then he was run over by his own car. So pretty brutal. That's pretty brutal when you think about it, eh? The OPP notified the St. Thomas City Police of the murder only a couple of minutes after receiving this call. The city police learned of the discovery of Mr. DeViller's abandoned taxi. A Cox cab driver found it parked on Lila Street and notified the taxi dispatcher, who relayed the news to the police. There was no evidence of foul play in the car, suggesting that Mr. DeViller was outside of it when he was attacked. So Lila Street, for those that don't know, that's the Palm Street Hill area as you're at the end of Ross Street heading over towards Elgin.
Yes.
Go around the where the armories and all that is. So Marie DeViller, DeViller, I guess her name is, learned about her husband's death around 3 a.m. on Saturday morning when Cecil Cox and Reverend F.J. Shilliday came to the house to break the news. Horrible. 3 a.m. And I think you said your dad worked for Cecil Cox.
Yeah, my dad was working for Cecil at the time.
And yeah, that's right. At the time of this murder, he was actually employed. Now, how old were you, Tom? At this
68, I would have been 13.
13 at the time. So this is something you would, I imagine your dad talked about this one.
Yeah.
That's pretty scary. Have your co-worker murdered like that. Did you ever meet this man at that time?
I'm not really sure if I did or not.
Probably don't remember.
I did meet a number of the drivers. Some of them I was acquainted with here and there over the years since, and some of them I just met briefly.
Wow. So both of these suspects were quickly arrested in May of 1968. Both were convicted of murder with no possibility of parole for 20 years. The two murderers continued to make news over the next 40 years. Now, in 1973, Mr. DeViller's older murderer, the 22-year-old, who now at this time is 27, he escaped from the medium security Collins Bay Penitentiary with 3 other prisoners. The 4 men crawled through the ventilation ducts to a service building, triggered a maintenance alarm, and surprised the engineer, who showed up in response. They used the engineer's keys and car to escape. Now, despite the questions raised about why he was allowed out on day parole with his record of violence and attempted escapes, the older murderer was eventually granted full parole, and he was married and settled in Lethbridge, Alberta. So, never heard of, that was all new. I never knew any of that. I guess karma came back to see him, because it says here in June of 2008, he's now 62 years old. He fell into a rain-swollen creek while on a camping trip and was swept away by the current, and his body was found 150 yards downstream. Then it goes on just to say that Marie DeViller died in 2004 at the age of 82. So there was a little history on that, but I never knew all about the escapes and
really. Over the whole incident, there wasn't a lot of talk about it really around St. Thomas, just what you got in the newspaper, but nobody really talked about it. Yeah. So I knew of it, but I really didn't know any of the details.
If I remember correctly, I think Keith said one time that they got only like $12.
Yeah, something like that.
When they robbed that driver. That's all that they were able to get from that whole scenario. So one of the other things I wanted to talk, so while we're on about Cox Cabs, I remember coming to the garage one time, probably coffee in hand for another bribe. I'm sure that's probably what we're doing. Pull into the yard, and you've got this little tiny trailer with this big round tank and stuff on it. And here I come to learn you're building a pig roaster.
Yeah.
Right. So what happened, Tom? Were you sitting in the garage one day, nobody's got their car in there, and you're going, I'm so bored. I'm just going to build a pig roaster. I need a pig cooker. Like, what did you do? How did you come about doing that? And
the original start of it was, as I was saying, when I started high school, we moved out of St. Thomas down near Port Bruce. We were raising hogs, and there was a group from Europe, all from the same country in Europe, in town here, that really enjoyed pig roast. So they would come out and they would actually buy the pig off of us and prepare it. And they would cook it to almost finished. The old-fashioned way, turned by hand beside a open pit. Then they would barbecue it, wrap it, take it home, put it in the freezer, and have barbecued pig whenever they
and you're
wanted.
doing all this on your property.
Yeah.
So they're...
And we did 2 or 3 of them for ourselves.
Wow.
So I got to really enjoy the pig roasts. And then Charlene, my other half, and my daughter, their birthdays are close together. One year we decided to do a pig roast for their birthday. A friend of mine had a roaster. So we borrowed his. He actually come and helped us do it. We did one every year after that for a long time. Over a few years, his pig roaster had pretty much bit the dust. We borrowed another one that was wood-fired, and we really enjoyed the wood. And we could no longer get the wood-fired one. It was all propane-powered. And we decided we really wanted the wood-fired, so I decided to make one of my own design.
Yeah, I remember that day pulling in and then looking at this. It was actually quite a piece of machinery.
It's quite a monster.
It was a monster, but how do you decide what kind of wood to burn in it? I mean, you just don't want to grab any kind of wood and throw it in there.
No, some woods really don't taste good with the smoke held in there.
Yeah.
I normally use apple wood, preferably still green, so that it smokes quite well and burns slower. For the first hour and a half, 2 hours, that gets the apple smoke into the pig really good. And then I try to use as much sugar maple as possible after that. Wow. For the sweeter smoke.
Wow. Okay. I know I've seen a lot of residential smokers you can buy, and they'll have hickory, things like that. You can get hickory pellets. They always just seem hickory, but I don't know. With ham, it makes sense. Apple would be a nice combination.
With any kind of pork, the fruit woods are much better. They use a lot of hickory for fish and stuff like that.
Mm. Okay. Well, whatever happened to it? I mean, you went out and did a few functions with it. Did you wind up selling it, or
no? I still have it.
Do you still have it?
Yeah.
Do you?
It's actually parked out at my daughter's boyfriend's.
Oh, we'll have to get some maybe some plans for it next year.
Yeah.
Get it fired up. Yeah, that would be a bad idea. So let's flip it around a little bit. Let's get into the music side of things, because all the years that I knew you, I never knew that you played guitar. You sang. I didn't know any of that.
I got away from it for a lot of years.
We never talked about it. I know through the associations that we have with some local musicians and people that we know here in St. Thomas, that I started to all of a sudden see you bring the guitar out, and you started making videos when I think you were in Tilsonburg when you started posting songs. I was like, wow, I didn't know this guy did this. My association with, I never played instruments, and I certainly don't sing. This does not sing, but I looked after some other groups. I was the former band manager for the Ring of Fire Johnny Cash Experience, booking them across Canada with the Legions. I'm currently doing booking spring shows for Jamie Warren, who Jamie is one of Canada's most awarded independent country artists. So Jamie wants to go around the Legions, and I've been sending out letters and booking shows.
He's a really good guy too.
Jamie's a great guy, and he has a lot of ties back to St. Thomas too. He's been here a lot of years. Moved away for a while. I think he was in the Kitchener area for quite a few years, and now Jamie's back in this area. He's kind of a local guy once again, so pretty cool to have somebody with that kind of history, and he's got a lot of awards, that guy, and he's back in the recording studios bringing out other albums. So my association that way was kind of my music thing that I've been doing for a lot of years. Way back with Steve the Animal Marsden drumming for Lawrence Lalonde Double L when he started. That was a long time ago. So Tom, when you started playing guitar, then who was your influence? How did you get into that?
My dad and band members he had playing with him. One gentleman that I kind of grew up around. He was a fantastic guitar player. He taught me the first song I learned to actually pick. It was kind of slow and not very exciting when I learned it, but over the years I developed a better system for playing it. I kind of adopted my own style for it. And I just kind of picked it up by ear and watching others play. I actually got interested in it when I was around 8 or 9 years old.
Oh, so
Started
you were
playing
quite young.
at 12.
Wow. All right. And then, but what kind of genre of music? Like what did you start with? Did you kind of veer away from some of that for a while and come back? Like,
I
what's your love?
started with the really old country and western, playing in groups with my dad. And for a little while I was with a band that did kind of a mix of classic country and what was more modern at the time. It'd be in the mid 70s.
Okay. Yeah.
And then I kind of got away from music and followed other interests in life. And when I decided to retire, I thought for something to do and
Music always
I'll
comes
get back
back.
into music.
Music always is there, isn't it? You know what? We were talking one day, me and Jamie, and I had brought up the point that I think one of the most powerful things in the world is music.
It is.
Because it can make so many emotions. It can make you cry.
Yeah.
It can make you so happy. It can make you feel great. It can make you want to start a war.
Yeah.
I mean, music is powerful.
Yes.
People, dementia, Alzheimer's, there's nothing left really of the person. The person that you once know is gone. You play music, what's there? They still remember the words. And I've always been told that that's kind of the last part of the brain that...
Music sticks with you so well. Last time I made a list, I know all the words to around 230 songs.
Wow. Yeah.
But sometimes to tell you what I had for breakfast is impossible.
Yeah, I know. I know that exact thing. So we went out recently to the Chippewa Community Center, you and me. Hector Sturgeon was celebrating his 52nd birthday. I actually had to look it up from our first one because I wasn't sure if it was 51 or 52, but it was 52nd. Hector rented that community center because he wanted to have an old-fashioned jam.
Yeah.
It was like an old kitchen party,
And
farmhouse. It was fantastic. I mean, there was probably at least 20 different musicians that came out. Not just musicians, but other ladies, other reserve women that came out and just played piano. Family members sang. It was so much fun. Was supposed to run, I think, 1 to 6 p.m. and 8:30 at night. We're still plucking away out there, right?
It was all country music, but there were so many different styles.
Oh, a ton. There was from bluegrass to old country, some of the newer stuff, folk music. It was what we had keyboards out there. We had stand-up bass. Lots of guitars.
Fiddles.
Yeah, there was fiddles out there. The young guy that won the Canadian step dancing championships just at that time just won that award. And he was out there doing the fiddle and did a few steps. Oh, then we had George Taylor come out from Purple Hill Country Opry Barn out there. Great to see George. That was really nice. What a great show they do out there. So Hector had a great birthday. You guys played all day. Like, what is that for you? If you're a musician playing and you're always trying to go out and get gigs in bars or whatever, if you don't have a band, it's hard. Everybody's always trying to undercut other people. It's not a lifestyle where you're going to get rich on.
No, definitely not.
No, you're not making a lot of money at it. But something like that, what does that mean to you?
It means a lot of fun. It's great to go to something like that and meet musicians I've never met before, play with them, and I guess you could say get used to the different styles people play. It's just a whole new experience every time you do something like that.
I guess one of the biggest things for you is when you take a song and you try and make it yours, but listening to others do it would also give you the ideas, right?
Yeah.
On how you could change up things, different chords.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. Now, are you into writing? Do you write your own stuff, or do you just kind of do cover tunes?
I did co-write
Yeah.
a couple of songs with a older gentleman. He was a friend of my dad's. He's since passed on. They're kind of in the traditional old country and western style. He come to my dad's with the words he had written, and we kind of collaborated, and I put the music to him for him. Since then, before he passed away, I asked him about the possibility of recording them, and he gave me permission to record them with no royalties to him. Just I have to make sure I mention his name on the
Nice.
On the cover.
So, thanks everybody for tuning in. Pilot episode. So we're gonna piece it together, see how it all comes out. Stay tuned. We have a few guests lined up. Not sure how many episodes we're gonna do right now. I'm probably just gonna do one a month right now, just to kind of start it off. So, Tom, play it out there a little bit. Whatever you want to do, give us a little bit, and we'll see everybody soon.
Actually, I'll do a little bit of what I come up with. The song I originally learned to play started out.
Oh, did you?
Quite
all right.
simply.
No, I can't remember it.
That's how I originally learned to play it.
Did you?
Kind of dry. Now, these days I play it more like this.